The series begins with a girl named Daenerys, a member of the Targaryen family. Her brother Viserys meets her and tells her to get ready because she will meet her groom today. Viserys wants to marry her off to a man named Khal Drogo, the leader of the Dothraki tribe. Viserys wants to marry his sister to form an alliance with the Dothraki, hoping to gain their 40,000 warriors and reclaim the Iron Throne of the Seven Kingdoms. The Dothraki are known for their ferocity in battle and their powerful warriors. Daenerys walks forward so that Khal Drogo can see her. He stops to inspect her, then leaves with his men. The governor of the city tells Viserys, "I understand from Khal Drogo's looks that he is attracted to Daenerys, so rest assured he will marry her soon." However, Daenerys hesitates to marry him and tells her brother, "I want to go home." Viserys replies, "I also want to go home. I want my throne back, but some people stole it from us, so I have to fight them to get my house back. You're the only way I can do that, and I'll do anything to get my rights and my family's rights back." Daenerys had no choice but to listen to her older brother. Daenerys marries Khal Drogo, and the wedding ceremony takes place. The guests present gifts to Daenerys, and a warrior named Jorah gives her books about the Seven Kingdoms, telling her he used to work for her father. We learn that Daenerys' father, the Mad King, was the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Then she receives a gift box containing 3 dragon eggs, as the Targaryen family is known for having dragons. Khal Drogo gives his wife a white horse and they travel together. We then go to the continent of Westeros, home to the Seven Kingdoms, and to the northern region Winterfell, where we see 3 of the Night's Watch are crossing the wall. This giant wall protects the kingdom from many creatures. The most dangerous creatures are the White Walkers, and some are zombie-like creatures, whites, living in the middle of the ice. Although it is forbidden for anyone to cross the wall, the guards have broken the rules. One of the guards sees the remains of many bodies around him. He is terrified and returns to his colleagues and tells them about what he saw and tells them that it is definitely the White Walkers who did this. But his colleagues do not believe this and deny the existence of the White Walkers. And they tell him that it is certainly the wildlings who killed the people that you saw, but the White Walkers appear and kill them and leave this guard alive to deliver a message to the humans. The guard returns to Winterfell, and then we get to know the Stark family. The Starks are the ones who rule the kingdom of Winterfell, and the leader of the family is Ned Stark. He watches his son Bran practice shooting arrows, but he was failing badly. In this exercise, his sister comes from behind him, the arrow strikes, and Ned learns from his men that some guards crossed the wall without permission. One guard managed to return, so Ned orders his execution. His men bring the guard back to carry out the death penalty. The guard tells Ned, "I saw the White Walkers and they really are here." But Ned doesn't believe him, thinking the White Walkers disappeared years ago. He draws his giant sword and kills the guard. All of Ned's sons are present and witness the killing, so they will learn that in the future, wrongdoers must be punished and the law will be applied. On their way home, they see a large direwolf who has died and given birth to 5 pups. Ned orders the pups killed because they won't be able to live without their mother. A man named Jon Snow suggests that each of Ned Stark's sons raise a direwolf, especially since the wolf is the symbol of House Stark. Ned agrees with Jon, and each of Ned's sons takes a pup. He tells them, "You are the ones who will raise them, feed them, and they will be your responsibility." Before they leave, they discover there's a 6th wolf. Jon Snow takes the puppy because Jon Snow is known to be Ned Stark's bastard son, but he was born out of wedlock. That's why he was named Snow, the bastard surname of the North, so everyone would know he was illegitimate. Catelyn, Ned Stark's wife, hates Jon Snow because her husband had an illegitimate relationship and fathered this boy. Then we go to King's Landing, the capital of the Seven Kingdoms, where the throne is located. At this time, the king's hand, Jon Arryn, dies under mysterious circumstances. A raven arrives at Winterfell with a message from King's Landing. Catelyn takes the message and goes to her husband, Ned, and tells him that a message has come from King's Landing saying that Arryn is dead and that the king will come to visit them with his queen and all his men.
Ned tells her, "Surely the king came all this way for one thing, to make me his hand." Catelyn begs her husband to refuse. Winterfell is then prepared to receive the king. After a month's journey, the king arrives with his men. His name is King Robert Baratheon, and everyone bows to him. Robert greets his dear friend Ned, and we learn that they were once very close friends, fought together, and hadn't seen each other for 9 years. Robert greets his sons and Ned Stark's daughters. Queen Cersei steps out of the carriage, and the Starks pay their respects. Robert speaks with Ned privately, telling him that Aeron was in excellent health but suddenly died without explanation. Robert doesn't accuse anyone of Aeron's murder. As Ned expected, Robert asks Ned to be his hand. Ned replies that it's a great honor and he doesn't deserve it. Robert says, "You helped me become king, so you deserve to be my hand. I also suggest that I betroth my son Joffrey to your daughter Sansa." And Ned was unable to refuse any of the king's requests. Robert remembers when he killed all the Targaryen families in the war. Ned told him that the matter was over and all the Targaryens were dead. Robert told him that, on the contrary, 2 were still alive. Robert meant Daenerys and Viserys. After that, Benjen, Ned Stark's brother, meets Jon Snow and greets him. He greets him because it has been a long time since they saw each other, as Benjen is guarding the wall with the Night's Watch. He suggests that Jon Snow join the Night's Watch. Jon Snow does not object and strongly agrees, especially since he is rejected everywhere because he is an illegitimate son. Benjen agrees with him that they will continue their conversation later and asks him why he is not at the party. Jon told him that Catelyn rejected his presence, saying his son was illegitimate and he couldn't be in the presence of the king. Then, a dwarf named Tyrion Lannister introduced himself to Jon, saying he was the queen's brother. Tyrion continued to provoke Jon, telling him he was illegitimate and advising him not to be upset, and then he left. The scene shifted to the ball held in honor of King Robert, where Sansa exchanged glances with Prince Joffrey, her future husband. That night, Catelyn tried to convince Ned not to become the king's hand. Ned told her it wouldn't work, saying he personally didn't want to go, but they couldn't refuse the king's request. Later, a letter arrived from Catelyn's sister, who was the wife of Aeron, the man who had died. She told Catelyn that the Lannisters who had killed her husband were in danger and might kill the king. Ned was shocked by this and felt that the Lannisters were plotting to seize the throne. So Ned becomes more convinced that he must be the king's hand to protect him from the evil of the Lannisters. The next day, Bran Stark is climbing the castle and sees something he shouldn't have: Queen Cersei Lannister in an illicit relationship with her brother, Jaime Lannister. They are shocked because no one can find out about their affair. Jaime decides to push Bran off the castle. The following day, the 3 Lannister siblings are having breakfast, and Jaime and Cersei are upset to learn that Bran survived, though he remains unconscious. They are worried that Bran will wake up and reveal their affair, as it's a secret no one knows. Cersei visits Catelyn, who is sitting by Bran's side, distressed. It is expected that Bran will remain unconscious for a long time, and if he survives, he will be paralyzed. Cersei tells Catelyn, "My firstborn son died of an illness, but strangely Robert didn't care about his death. Bran reminds me of my son." As for Jon Snow, he prepares to join the Night's Watch and goes to say goodbye to his younger sister Arya Stark, giving her a sword as a gift because Arya loves swords and fighting and wants to be a warrior. Jon tells her to be careful when using the sword because it's not a game. Arya thanks Jon and hugs him. Afterwards, Jon goes to say goodbye to Bran and tells him he'll wait for him to wake up so he can come and see the wall. Catelyn does not like Jon's presence and orders him to leave. Ned goes to sit with Catelyn and she tells him, "I can't forget 17 years ago when you fought with Robert and returned after the war carrying your son. After all these years, you're going to leave me again." He tells her, "I have no choice." Ned tries to comfort her. Afterwards, Jon says goodbye to Robb Stark, who is the eldest of Ned Stark's sons. Then Ned Stark sets off with his men to King's Landing, and Jon goes to join the Night's Watch. Ned tells him that to serve in the Night's Watch is a great honor, and the Starks have been guarding the wall for thousands of years. "You are considered one of the Starks, even though you don't carry my name, but we share the same blood." Jon asks him if his mother is alive and if she knows he is her son. Ned promises him that when they meet next time, he will tell him who she is. For your information, Jon Snow's mother is the most important mystery in the series. After that, each goes his own way, and Robert and Ned relax on the road.
Robert says to him, "It's strange that an honorable man like you had an illicit relationship and even fathered Jon Snow. What's even stranger is that you never spoke to me about it." Ned is bothered by this topic and refuses to talk about Jon Snow's mother, changing the subject. Robert tells him, "I sent a spy after Daenerys and Viserys, and he told me that Daenerys married the leader of the Dothraki tribe. I'm thinking of sending another spy to kill her with a dagger." Ned rejects this, saying she's just a young girl. Robert says, "This young girl? You'll grow up and have children of the Targaryen lineage, and you certainly haven't forgotten what the Targaryens did to your family, especially Rhaegar Targaryen, who kidnapped and killed your sister. I will kill every single Targaryen in the world until they are completely wiped out. I must do this before Khal Drogo comes and fights us with his men. But Ned isn't afraid of the Dothraki army. He says that no matter how many they are, they won't be able to cross the narrow sea because they simply don't have ships. And even if they do cross the sea and come, we will easily kill them and throw them into the sea. Robert replied, I feel that a war will happen. I don't know when or with whom, but it will happen. A month later, Catelyn was sitting by Bran's side the whole time, extremely worried about him and never leaving his side for a moment. Suddenly, an assassin arrives to kill Bran with a dagger, but Catelyn fights him and defends her son, but he manages to overpower her. But Bran's wolf attacks him and bites this criminal on the neck, killing him. He sits next to Bran to protect him. The next day, Catelyn goes to the place where Bran fell. She goes out to the castle and finds a yellow hair, which is Cersei's hair. Thus, she grabs the first clue about the person who hurt Bran. She meets with her son and the important figures in Winterfell and tells them, I believe that someone pushed Bran off the castle and he did not fall alone. As we all believed in the truth, there was someone who tried to kill him twice, and he was the one who sold the hitman to kill Bran. Surely Bran saw something dangerous, so they want to kill my son. I expect that the Lannisters had a hand in this matter, and Roderick responds to her and tells her that the dagger that the hitman had was made of Valyrian steel, and this is a very expensive metal. So surely no one had a hitman like this. He used the dagger to kill Bran. And Robb gets angry and wants to declare war on the Lannister family, but Roderick tells them they must inform Ned Stark first. Catelyn tells him she won't be reassured by carrying a message with a raven, so she will go to Ned herself to tell him. She goes to say goodbye to Bran, and we return to Essos with Daenerys. Daenerys couldn't adapt to the Dothraki tribe because they are a barbaric people. She keeps dragon eggs and asks the handmaidens if they have ever seen dragons. They tell her that dragons have been extinct for many years. Daenerys talks to this handmaiden alone and asks her how to make Khal Drogo love her. The maid gives her advice on marital relationships, telling her that love begins with eye contact, so she must communicate with him through eye contact. After giving her all the advice she needs, Daenerys applies it to Khal Drogo, and it works. Khal Drogo begins to love her. Afterwards, King Robert's family and the rest of the family rest at the Lannister encampment. Joffrey decides to bring himself closer to Sansa, and they go for a walk together by the river. They see Arya, Sansa's sister, practicing stick fighting with a boy, the butcher's son. Joffrey intervenes, harassing the boy and wanting to show off his fighting skills in front of Sansa. He orders the boy to fight him, but the boy is afraid. Joffrey tells him not to train with his fiancée's sister again and cuts him in the face. Arya gets angry and hits Joffrey, and Joffrey is about to hit her back with a spear, but Arya's direwolf intervenes and bites Joffrey on the hand. Arya threatened Joffrey with her sword needle and then threw it into the river. Sansa checked on Joffrey, but he yelled at her and ordered her to leave. Arya realized that the king's guards would kill her wolf for biting her future husband, so she ordered the wolf to escape before anyone saw her. That night, everyone gathered before Robert to settle the matter. Cersei was furious about what had happened to her son. Joffrey had lied and claimed that Arya and the boy had attacked him and that Arya had let the wolf bite him. Arya insisted it was a lie, but Robert silenced them and asked for the Sansa testimony. Sansa lied and sided with Joffrey because she loved him. Robert said it was just a squabble between children and that the matter was over. Everyone would raise their own children. But Cersei intervened and said she wanted the wolf to die.
Since Arya's wolf had disappeared, Sansa's wolf should be the one to die, and Robert agreed. Sansa is upset and angry about this decision, but there was nothing Ned could do. Ned decided to kill the wolf himself because she was from Winterfell, and when he came out, he saw the body of the boy and learned that Cersei had ordered the boy to die. Ned killed Sansa's wolf, and then Bran woke up from the coma. Jon Snow reached the wall for the first time, and Tyrion Lannister was coming with him to watch the wall because he wanted to see the wonders of the world. After that, Jon Snow trains with the Night's Watch guards, and Jon shows strong fighting skills and is able to outsmart them all. However, the guards that Jon outskilled ambush him and stop him and want to kill him, but Tyrion intervenes and uses his influence as a member of the Lannister family and threatens them to leave Jon alone. He tells them, I memorized your faces and forms and sent them to my sister, so that I can send an army and they will kill you. They understand. They are afraid of Tyrion's threats and tell Jon, we'll settle our score later. Meanwhile, Ned Stark, his daughters, and the others arrive in King's Landing. Ned Stark enters the hall where the king's throne is located. He sees Jaime as a coward for killing the previous king from behind. Jaime tells him, I avenged your father and brother because the Mad King killed them. If I had killed him from the front instead of from behind, you would have called me brave. Ned isn't convinced and leaves. He then meets the king's ministers, receives the badge of the king's hand, and discusses matters of state with them. He discovers that the kingdom owes a great deal to the Lannisters and realizes there's a problem with financial management within the kingdom. Cersei is tending to her son's wounds. He was embarrassed to be bitten in front of Sansa and Arya, so she tells him, "Every king has injuries, and you will be the future king after your father. No one will dare look you in the eye. We'll tell you how the injury on your hand happened. When you fought the wolf, you were the one who was able to kill the wolf, and since you were the king, you can say whatever you want and no one will hold you accountable." Joffrey tells him, "I hate the Stark family and I want to destroy Winterfell." Cersei tells him, "Any family other than ours are our enemies, but we must use our power wisely and exploit every family and every person for a specific purpose." And with that, Cersei began to raise a monster. After that, Ned sees Arya with a sword and is afraid for her and tells her this is not a game and girls shouldn't hold swords because you will be a princess when you grow up. She told him, "I don't want to be a princess, I want to be a warrior and I want to learn to fight." Arya was still upset about what happened with Joffrey, the king and the queen, and she hated Sansa for not telling the truth. Ned told her, "Sansa and Joffrey will be married soon, and it wasn't right for Sansa to betray her future husband. She has to take his side even if he's the one in the wrong. And know that winter is coming. You've lived your whole life in summer and you don't know what winter is like. This winter will be harshly cold and snow will keep falling from the sky, covering half our bodies. The sun will be gone for many years to the point that some people will be born and die in winter. We all have to support each other from now on. Sansa is your sister and you can't hate her. Since we left our land and came to King's Landing, we can't fight each other." She was convinced by his words, and Ned allowed her to keep the sword while he was joking with her and telling her not to kill your sister with it. He leaves her and walks away. Then Catelyn Stark arrives in King's Landing and hands over to Lord Peter Baelish the dagger that she took from the criminal who was going to kill Bran and asks him knows who this dagger belongs to. But Varys didn't know, but Lord Peter replied, "I know. This dagger belongs to Tyrion Lannister." Catelyn was shocked and met Ned Stark, telling him that Peter would help them find out who tried to kill their son. Meanwhile, Jaime and Cersei were talking about Bran. Cersei told Jaime that Bran had lost his memory. Cersei was worried that he might remember and tell everyone that he saw them together, and then Robert would find out. Jaime told her, "I'll declare war on Robert if I have to, and I'll kill Bran, Ned Stark, and everyone else until it's just you and me left in this world." Catelyn was certain that the Lannisters had tried to kill her son, but Ned wasn't sure yet because there wasn't strong evidence. He told her that as soon as there was evidence, he would tell Robert immediately. Catelyn said goodbye to him because she was returning to Winterfell. Robert, however, wasn't paying much attention to the affairs of the kingdom and wasting his time on anything and everything. Ned asks Jaime, "Tell me, when you killed the previous king, Aerys Targaryen, did he call you a traitor or beg for mercy?" Jaime replied, "On the contrary. He kept repeating the same phrase he'd been saying for hours, 'Burn everyone.'" Meanwhile, we go to Bran Stark in Winterfell. Robb goes in to check on him and asks what he remembers before he fell.
Bran says he doesn't remember anything. Robb says, "I'm surprised because you're always climbing and you've never fallen." Bran is shocked to learn that his legs are paralyzed and he'll never be able to move again. He tells Robb, "I'd rather die than live like this." On the continent of Essos, Daenerys is starting to adapt to the Dothraki tribe and asks Jorah about their customs. Jorah tells her that the Dothraki don't value money and the slaves they have were taken as gifts from the cities they conquered. Suddenly, Viserys stops Daenerys, annoyed because Daenerys' influence is rising among the Dothraki, but Viserys isn't getting his due. He raises a sword and threatens her, but a Dothraki intervenes and chokes him. He asks Daenerys if she wants him to kill the Dothraki, but Daenerys refuses and orders him to leave him alone. Viserys orders Jorah to kill the Dothraki, but Jorah doesn't obey him because he realizes that Daenerys is the one whose orders he should follow. Afterwards, Daenerys begins to learn the Dothraki language, and her maid notices that Daenerys is pregnant. Daenerys is surprised and happy. Meanwhile, Arya is surprised to find a dancing master named Syrio Forel. It turns out that Ned Stark hired Syrio Forel to train Arya in combat. Syrio Forel starts with her from scratch and explains that a sword is like an extension of your arm and cannot be dropped under any circumstances. Arya is happy to be training with him. Later, Tyrion meets Bran after he's been put in bed and gives him a drawing of a device that will help Bran walk. Robb Stark is surprised that Tyrion is helping his brother. Tyrion tells him, "I like to help dwarfs, bastards, and anyone with a physical defect." Robb is pleased with Tyrion and wants to give him the best welcome, but Tyrion refuses the compliments and leaves. At the Night's Watch, a new guard named Sam joins them, but Sam is ridiculed by the guards because he's fat, doesn't suit the qualities of a warrior, and is also a coward who can't fight. Sir Alliser Thorne orders the guard to beat Sam, and Jon doesn't like what's happening. He intervenes, defends Sam, and makes him stand behind him. Sir Alliser Thorne takes Jon's actions as a challenge and orders the 3 guards to overpower Jon to reach Sam. But Jon Snow beats them all, and in the end they surrender. From that day on, Sir Alliser Thorne begins to persecute Jon. Sam thanks Jon for his help, and Jon tells Sam that he must learn to defend himself because the Wall and the Night's Watch are not places for cowards. At night, Sam joins Jon in guarding the Wall, and Sam tells him that his eyesight is weak. Jon Snow asks Sam, "You're afraid of everything in the world, so why did you join the Night's Watch at 18? Sam replies, "My father told me I don't deserve to inherit his land and money, and that I'd join the Night's Watch tomorrow and give up my inheritance. He also said that if I refused, we'd go hunting, and if I died, he wasn't responsible and that my death would make him very happy." After this story, Jon sympathizes with Sam. The next day, Jon asks his comrades not to bully Sam because he's a kind and innocent boy who didn't find his place in the world. He tells them not to hit Sam during training, even if they are ordered to do so. A guard named Rast intervenes, threatening to hit Sam during training the next day. Jon Snow threatens Rast while he's sleeping and tells him not to touch Sam. Jon's direwolf threatens Rast, and the next day during training, Rast is afraid to hit Sam, even though Sir Alliser Thorne attacks him fiercely, but Rast gently strikes Sam. Sir Alliser Thorne orders another guard to attack Sam, but this guard pretends to hit him hard. Sir Alliser Thorne grabs Jon by his clothes because he understands that Jon is the cause of all this. He addresses everyone saying, "When a battle breaks out, who do you want to defend you? A weakling like Sam? A strong warrior?" Jon and Sam clean the tables on Sir Alliser Thorne's orders. Sir Alliser Thorne enters and says, "You look cold even though it's summer and you're standing near the heater. What will you do in the real winter? I once guarded the wall in the dead of winter and we fought the wildlings. The wind was so strong it uprooted trees. Even the hedgerows were freezing. Kids like you won't be able to withstand these conditions and you'll die in the winter, no question about it." Afterwards, Ned speaks with Grandmaster Pycelle about Jon Arryn's death, and Pycelle tells him that Jon Arryn used to meet with him often before he died, and before he dies in the night, he asked me about the book, The Lineages and Histories of the Great Houses of the Seven Kingdoms. Ned asks him to take this book, and Pycelle agrees, and gives him the book. Ned finds that each family has many pages in this book, and very precise details are written. Ned asks him, what exactly was Jon Arryn looking for? Pycelle told him he didn't know because he hadn't spoken to him about anything. Ned is suspicious that someone killed Jon Arryn because Jon Arryn discovered something important from the book. Ned will start investigating this matter and takes the book and leaves. He meets Lord Petyr Baelish, Littlefinger, who knows that Ned took the Book of Kings because he is investigating Jon Arryn's death. He tells him that before Jon Arryn died, he was meeting with a person named Hugh, so maybe Hugh has information that will benefit him. Ned asks him why he is helping him. He told him, "I promised Catelyn I'd help you, but don't go and meet Hugh yourself. We have spies everywhere, and the whole kingdom will know you're investigating Jon Arryn's death. The best thing to do is send one of your men to meet Hugh. After that, I want you to meet a specific blacksmith because my spies have seen Jon Arryn going to this blacksmith often." Ned thanked him for his help and said, "At first I didn't trust you, but now you're trustworthy." Petyr replied, "Everyone doesn't trust me at first," and left. Sure enough, one of Ned's men met Hugh and said, "Ned Stark sent me to speak with you," but Hugh refused to talk, saying if Ned Stark wants to speak with me, he should come and talk to me because I'm a knight. Ned then went himself to the blacksmith Petyr had told him about, not caring that spies were watching him, and asked the blacksmith about Jon Arryn. The blacksmith said Jon Arryn used to come to me a lot to meet a boy named Gendry, and Gendry would attend and meet Ned, and Ned would ask him, "What did Jon Arryn talk to you about?" Gendry told him that Robert had been asking him about his mother and his childhood. When Ned looked closely at Gendry's features, he noticed a resemblance to King Robert and realized that Gendry was Robert's illegitimate son because Robert had many affairs. Jaime, meanwhile, was guarding Robert's room and overheard him having affairs with many women. He told his friend that Robert always did this and that he guarded him to provoke him while he was cheating on his sister. A tournament of chivalry was then held between the two warriors.
The first warrior in the fight was Hugh, who was supposed to speak with Ned Stark later. The second was a powerful warrior named Gregor Clegane, the Mountain, who was the brother of Sandor Clegane, the Hound, one of the king's guards. The fight began between the Mountain and Hugh, and the Mountain defeated and killed him. Arya and Sansa were shocked by what they saw, and everyone realized that the Mountain possessed superhuman strength. Petyr Baelish then told the story of the two brothers, the Mountain and the Hound. He tells her that the Mountain is the older brother, and one day when they were little, the Mountain saw his brother playing with his toy. The Mountain got angry, grabbed his head, and put it in the fire. He held it there, and the Hound kept screaming until his face looked like this. Meanwhile, Viserys gets angry at his sister because she wants to give him a gift made by the Dothraki. He tells her, "I'm not one of them," and attacks her, hitting her. She cuts him in the face and tells him, "If you hit me again, I'll cut off your hand, because I am the wife of Khal Drogo, and all the Dothraki are under my command." Afterwards, Catelyn and her attendant rest somewhere before returning to Winterfell. By chance, Tyrion Lannister enters the same place, and Catelyn is shocked. She has come to hate him because she believes he sent the criminal with the dagger to kill her son. When Tyrion sees her, he greets her, but she doesn't respond. She greets him and speaks to everyone there, as they are all friends of Catelyn's family. She tells them, "I took Tyrion into my home, yet he tried to kill my 10-year-old son. I ask you to arrest him so he can be tried in Winterfell." They all listen to Catelyn and raise their weapons against Tyrion. After they capture him, they stop in the road, and Tyrion asked Catelyn, "Are you going to kill me here?" She replies, "No, I'm not a murderer. You're the one who tried to kill my son." He tells her, "I'm not stupid enough to send a criminal with my dagger." While they're talking, bandits suddenly appear, and a bloody battle ensues. Tyrion begs Catelyn to untie him, saying, "You won't gain anything if I die." She does untie him, and Tyrion is very afraid to fight because he is a dwarf, and would surely lose. Despite this, he finds courage and saves Catelyn from death, and kills the criminal for the first time in his life. She's surprised that Tyrion saved her, and then they move on to the castle of House Arryn, the family Catelyn belongs to. She meets her sister, Lysa, the current ruler of House Arryn. Lysa is furious at Tyrion's presence because she suspects the Lannisters killed her husband, and she accuses Tyrion of causing his death. Tyrion tells her, "If anything happens to me and Jaime, my brother, he'll come and conquer your castle." Catelyn tells her sister that Tyrion is coming with her in peace and no one will harm him, but Lysa orders Tyrion to be put in a dungeon immediately. It turns out the dungeon only has 3 walls, and the 4th wall is open to the edge of the abyss. Tyrion is terrified.
Later, Lord Varys speaks with Ned alone and tells him that the king has become foolish. His only concerns are drinking and women, and that if he continues like this, he will soon die. Cersei is watching you closely, and you are one of the people. There are few here with any honor left, so you must intervene, or the king will die from the same poison that killed Jon Arryn. This poison has no symptoms or effects, which is why no one discovered that Jon Arryn was poisoned. He is shocked by what he heard and starts thinking about who killed Jon Arryn, and maybe it's the king. Afterwards, Ned attends a meeting with Robert and the ministers. Robert is furious because he learned that Daenerys is pregnant and is determined that Daenerys must die and Viserys must die with her. But Ned disagrees with his decision and believes that the king is dishonoring him. Robert gets angry and tells him that honor won't allow him to rule 7 kingdoms. They must fear him, and he will kill any enemy in his path. Ned tells him that he is no different from the Mad King, and he doesn't even trust the information that Daenerys is pregnant. A knight tells him that he got the information from Jorah, who has been attached to Daenerys recently. Robert says, if it turns out, Daenerys is pregnant, so we're facing a Targaryen child and the leader of the Dothraki army. Ned keeps arguing with him, and Robert insults him. The small council tells Ned that if war breaks out, between them, many of their people will die and homes will be burned. It's better to kill one girl instead of so many. But Ned remains determined on the principle of honor, and tells Robert, I fought with you in 2 wars, but this time I won't fight with you, because the Robert I know wasn't afraid of a child who hadn't even been born yet. He removes his badge of Hand of the King, resigns from his position, and leaves. Robert is furious. Ned goes to gather his belongings, but Petyr comes to meet him and says, I can arrange for you to meet the last person Jon Arryn saw before he died. Ned hesitates, but eventually agrees and goes with Lord Petyr. He encounters a prostitute in a brothel, and it becomes clear that she's having an affair with him, and she gave birth to the child she's carrying. Ned asks her why Jon Arryn came before her. She tells him he came to see the child. After taking what he wants, Ned leaves, but when he goes outside, he finds Lannister soldiers surrounding him. Jaime Lannister says, Ned, your wife kidnapped my little brother. Ned doesn't deny it and says it happened and I ordered it. If you kill me, your brother will surely die. Jaime orders his men to kill Ned's men and capture him alive, but no one can capture him. He finds himself alone and decides to fight Jaime. They engage in a fierce sword fight, and it's clear the fight is evenly matched. However, a soldier stabs Ned from behind, and Jaime gets angry and strikes the soldier because he wanted to defeat Ned on his own. He orders Ned to free Tyrion, and Ned faints. Meanwhile, Robert is discussing Daenerys with Cersei and tells her, if Daenerys can convince her husband to attack us, we won't be able to stop them. Cersei tells him, but this is the Dothraki army, it's disorganized and they don't have armor. Robert tells her that's not the problem. The big problem we'll face is that the Dothraki army will fight for one goal, but our armies, each commander has a different goal. If we fight the Dothraki army in a face-to-face battle, we'll definitely lose. They'll move from country to country and conquer all the kingdoms, and it won't be long before Viserys becomes king. The last time we fought was 9 years ago, and all I want is to keep drinking and getting drunk. I'm very surprised that the kingdom is still holding out. Cersei decides to talk to him about their marriage, which has lasted 17 years, but she knows he doesn't love her because he loved someone named Lyanna Stark, who is Ned Stark's sister. Robert says, I'm upset because I don't even remember what Lyanna looks like anymore. She was the only thing I ever wanted in my life, but Rhaegar Targaryen took her from me, and the Seven Kingdoms couldn't fill the void left by Lyanna. Cersei tells him, I once had feelings for you and loved you, but did you ever love me, even for a moment? Robert says no, and Cersei is shocked by the answer. She decides to carry out a plan she'd been hesitant about. Then Ned wakes up and finds Robert and Cersei in front of him. Cersei argues with Ned about what happened and Robert silences them. He orders Ned to have Catelyn free Tyrion and for him to make peace with Jaime. But Ned refuses, telling him, Jaime killed my men. Give me permission to arrest him and bring him to justice. Robert seriously considers Ned's words, and as a result, Cersei gets angry and tells him, you don't deserve to be king. You should wear a dress instead of me, and we will wear the armor. Robert slaps her and orders her to leave. He then asks Ned to have Catelyn free Tyrion to prevent the problem from escalating into war. Ned asks him what to do about Jaime. Robert is hesitant because he owes the Lannisters a great deal of money. He tells Ned he can't rule the kingdom and that there are ongoing conflicts between the Starks and Lannisters, all of which will end with his command. Ned replies that his orders are his, but he has to leave and return to Winterfell. Robert refuses and orders him to stay, saying he doesn't love his brothers but loves Ned and considers him his brother. He gives him the badge of Hand of the King and says they will continue their conversation when he returns from his hunting trip. Until he returns, he will take his place on the throne. Ned does indeed sit on the throne, listens to the people's problems, and rules justly. Daenerys eats a horse's heart with its blood, as is the custom of the Dothraki when a Khaal's wife is pregnant. Daenerys fulfills her duty and eats the entire heart. Khal Drogo is proud of her, and Daenerys' position rises. In the midst of the Dothraki people, all cheering her on, Viserys is jealous that Daenerys is becoming more popular than everyone else, but he is completely ignored as if he doesn't exist. He realizes he can't rely on Khal Drogo to reclaim the throne, so he decides to steal dragon eggs to sell and buy soldiers to command him, but Jorah discovers his plan and stops him from stealing the eggs. Viserys is very upset by what's happening to him. He drinks heavily and becomes drunk. He interrupts Daenerys' celebrations, raises his sword towards her stomach, and tells her, I want my throne at any cost, just like Khal Drogo promised me, because I am the last male of the Targaryen line, the greatest family in history, and Khal Drogo hasn't paid for you yet, as we agreed. Khal Drogo is enraged by Viserys' actions and orders his men to restrain him. He melts a large quantity of gold and Viserys is terrified. He begs Daenerys for help, but this time she remains silent, not intervening and watches as Khal Drogo pours boiling gold on Viserys' head, killing her brother. She says, my brother doesn't deserve to be a Targaryen. Meanwhile, Bran is testing the invention Tyrion told him about, which allows him to ride a horse. While walking in the forest, 3 wildlings appear, demanding Bran's horse and belongings. Robb appears and orders them to leave his brother alone. When they refuse, Robb fights them and manages to kill the first one, but they put a knife to Bran's throat, forcing him to lower his weapon. Theon appears and kills the criminal from behind. Theon is one of the Starks' loyal servants. Later, Arya doesn't feel like training today because her father is injured. Master Syrio Forel tells her that training is best done when she's upset, explaining that she can engage in combat even when she's feeling down. So we must learn to fight at all times until death, not today. Arya is excited by his words, and we go to Tyrion, who was about to fall off the cliff while sleeping. He calls for the prison guard and asks him to tell Lysa that he wants to confess his crimes.
Tyrion is indeed summoned to the arena, but he doesn't confess to anything. He came here to tell them that he wants to be tried by duel, and since he can't fight himself, he'll have a fighter fight in his place. If his fighter wins, he'll leave in peace. Lysa tells him that if his fighter loses and the duel takes place, both of them will be thrown from the pit and die. Tyrion has no other option and asks Jaime Lannister to fight in his place, saying he'll wait for him. But Lysa refuses and says the duel will take place today. Tyrion searches among the people for a volunteer to fight for him, and a fighter named Bronn volunteers and fights the fighter. This just shows that Bronn is a weak fighter and will be easily defeated, but he saves himself from falling into the pit at the last moment and is able to turn the fight in his favor and cause him serious injuries. And then he kills him and throws him into the pit, and Tyrion was overjoyed. And the guard frees Tyrion and walks away, and then Bronn walks with him. And then Robert goes out hunting and, as usual, drinks a lot of wine. And Joffrey meets Sansa for the first time in many days. He has a gift in her hand so that he can reconcile her for what happened before. And he tells her that one day we will get married and she will be the queen of the 7 kingdoms. And Sansa is happy and forgives him for everything. Then he meets his daughters and tells them to prepare your needs so that we will return to Winterfell. And of course Sansa is upset because she is supposed to stay here and marry Joffrey. And she completely refuses to go, so he tells her, I promise you, I will marry you to someone else's prince and he will be braver than you. So you will tell him, no, I want Joffrey. He left behind children with yellow hair like him, and he will remain the best king in the history of the kingdom, and he will remain called the Golden Lion.
Arya tells her, you idiot, Joffrey is from the Baratheon family, like his father. I mean, the symbol of his family is the stag, not the lion. Sansa said to her, no, I think Joffrey belongs more to the Lannister family, not the Baratheon family, and there is no similarity between Joffrey and Robert at all. And Sansa's words are very important in Ned's mind. He lets his daughters go and read the history book, The History of Kings, and read about the Baratheon family. And he discovers that all the descendants of the Baratheon family have black hair, from the first person to the last person. But the strange thing is that Joffrey is the only one whose hair is yellow. And here Ned is shocked by the discovery that he learned, and that Joffrey is not the son of Robert. No, he's the son of Jaime Lannister, because Jaime and Cersei were in a relationship, and Jorah and Aaron discovered this before he died. So, Cersei killed him with poison, and then Ned meets Cersei, asks her about the injury on her face, and she says, my brother Jaime might kill Robert if he finds out Robert hit me like that. Ned asks her, your brother? And now you mean your lover? Cersei hides her sense of surprise and tells him, Jaime and I aren't just brothers, we're twins. We came into the world together, and we belong together. Ned deduces that Bran saw them together and that's why they tried to kill him. He tells her, it's clear all your children are Jaime's. She replies, Robert doesn't spend time with me, he's always with prostitutes and comes to bed drunk next to me. I used to love Robert and he was every girl's dream man in the kingdom. Our wedding day was the happiest moment of my life, our first day together as a married couple. Robert calls Leona, which is the name of his former lover, and Ned Stark's sister. Cersei tells him, Robert loved your sister more than me, even though she's dead. Ned doesn't care about any of this and tells her, when Robert returns from the hunting trip, I will tell him the whole truth, and at that time it is better for you to leave, because if he sees you, he will kill you. Cersei scoffs at his words, having already prepared a plan. She tells him that when he plays the Game of Thrones, he either wins or dies. There's no middle ground. She leaves him and walks away. Sometime later, Robert is injured while hunting, his wound very serious, and he is close to death. Joffrey sits beside him, grieving for his father. Ned enters and Robert orders everyone to leave except Ned. He dictates a will to Ned, stating that Ned will be the ruler of the entire kingdom until Joffrey reaches the age of majority and becomes king. Ned writes down every word Robert says verbatim, refusing to tell him the truth that Joffrey is not his son, so as not to cause a crisis before he dies. Robert tells him, congratulations, you are now protector of the realm. You will hate the throne just as I did. You were right, it wasn't necessary to kill Daenerys. I changed my mind on killing her. Try to stop the killing if it's not too late, and stand by my son so he can be better than me. Ned tells him not to worry, his name will be immortalized in history. Then Ned emerges from his room after Robert's death, while Daenerys tries to convince Khal Drogo of the idea of conquering Westeros and seizing the throne, making herself king. However, Khal Drogo disagrees, telling her that a king like him doesn't need a throne to be a king. Later, a wine merchant tries to give Daenerys a barrel of wine, but Jorah intervenes and orders her not to take it. Jorah knows the wine is poisoned and that the merchant was sent by Robert to kill Daenerys. Jorah orders the merchant to pour himself a glass of wine and drink it. The merchant initially refuses and stalls, but Daenerys compels him to drink. The merchant immediately runs away, but the Dothraki soldiers catch him, arrest him, and tie him to a tree until he receives his punishment.
Khal Drogo arrives to check on Daenerys, deeply worried about her, and thanks Jorah for what he did, and he tells him, "I will give you a horse as a gift." Khal Drogo is furious because someone tried to kill his wife. He shouts, "I will conquer Westeros, I will make my son, the one in Daenerys' womb, the king of the Seven Kingdoms. I will do what no king before me has done." Daenerys is delighted by her husband's decision. Then they begin torturing the wine merchant, making him walk naked and tied to a horse. Meanwhile, at the Night's Watch, roles and positions are being assigned to the new Night's Watchmen. The Lord Commander says that service in the Night's Watch is a great honor, and anyone who deserts will be punished by death. The commander announces the positions for all the new Night's Watchmen, and Jon and Sam are assigned to the servants. Jon is shocked because he expected to be with the Watchmen, and feels that Sir Alliser Thorne is the reason he was put with the servants.
Jon is very unhappy with this outcome. Maester Aemon gives Jon orders and tells him, "You will attend to me. The food and hot water will be ready and the bed sheets will be changed." Jon is furious because he feels humiliated, especially since he's a strong fighter who defeated all the guards. He feels this isn't fair. Sam comforts him, saying that he'll be very close to Maester Aemon, one of the Night's Watch leaders, and will be his companion in all meetings. He'll learn everything about the Night's Watch, and he might even rise to a leadership position. Jon is convinced by Sam's words, and then he and Sam take the Night's Watch oath, officially joining the organization. From that day forward, they have no right to marry, have children, inherit land, or receive any glory. They will serve the Night's Watch until their deaths. Jon didn't inherit anything from Ned's estate, because illegitimate children have no right to inheritance and are treated badly. So he has no other option but to live a life of the Night's Watch continues. And Ned writes a letter to a man named Stannis Baratheon, Robert's younger brother. In the letter, he states that the king is dead and that Ned will succeed him as regent. Ned orders his guard to travel and deliver the letter to Stannis himself. Later, Ned meets Petyr Baelish and tells him that Robert has no legitimate children because Joffrey and Tommen are Jaime's sons. Therefore, after Robert's death, the rightful heir to the throne is Stannis Baratheon. Petyr tries to convince Ned to become king, reconcile with the Lannisters, and get rid of Stannis. When Joffrey grows up, he will become king. And if Joffrey causes trouble, they will reveal his illegitimacy and make someone else king. Petyr promises to be involved in all of this. However, Ned is not convinced by Petyr's words and refuses to reconcile with the Lannisters because they wanted to kill Bran. Petyr tells him that reconciliation is only possible with an enemy, but Ned remains steadfast in his principles of honor and insists that Stannis will be the next king. Later, a lord tells Ned, "Cersei, Joffrey, and his men want to meet you in the King's Hall." When Ned arrives, he finds Joffrey sitting on the throne, declaring himself king. Joffrey orders Ned to pledge allegiance and obedience, but Ned doesn't respond. He gives Robert's last letter to the guard, Sir Barristan Selmy, to read aloud. Sir Barristan reads the letter, stating that Robert has appointed Ned Stark as regent until Joffrey reaches the age of majority. Cersei takes the letter, tears it up, and ignores its contents, declaring Joffrey the rightful king. She orders Ned to kneel before the new king, but Ned refuses, telling her that her son has no right to the throne. He orders his guards to arrest Cersei and Joffrey, but it turns out his guards are traitors who kill Ned's loyal men. Ned is shocked by what's happening. Petyr Baelish raises his weapon against Ned, revealing himself to be a treacherous figure. The Lannister soldiers kill anyone who follows Ned Stark. They want to kidnap Arya, but Syrio Forel defends her, fighting them off and managing to defeat 4 Lannister soldiers while wielding a wooden sword. Arya escapes, and he stands to fight the last warrior. Arya finds her belongings and clothing thrown in the street. Ned is imprisoned in a dungeon, and Varys comes to meet him, gives him water, and tells him that Arya has escaped from the castle and no one knows her whereabouts, and that Sansa has been kidnapped and is being held captive by Cersei. Varys says, "You made a mistake when you told Cersei that you knew the truth about Joffrey's father." Ned replies, "I was wrong. I told her that to give her a chance to escape with her children before Robert finds out and kills her." Varys says, "Actually, Robert didn't die from a wild animal. He died from the wine he drank because it contained a sedative that slowed him down and the wild animal killed him." Ned thought Cersei wouldn't be able to kill him because Catelyn still had him. Petyr is a knight who shocks him and tells him to free himself from Catelyn and leave him. On the other hand, Cersei and the council are trying to convince Sansa that her father is a traitorous man and wanted to take the throne for himself. Sansa doesn't believe all this and begs Cersei to free her friend. Cersei tells her that you are innocent of what her father did, and the council tells Cersei that Sansa is the daughter of a traitorous man, so she will not stay. A good wife for our king, and she might cheat after a while.
Sansa flatters them and says, "I will be a good wife, and I will be a queen just like Cersei." Cersei thinks about her words and asks her to write a letter herself to Robb Stark, telling him that he should come to offer loyalty and obedience to King Joffrey. Sansa asks her what will happen to her father. Cersei told her it depended on Robb's reaction, because if he even thought of feigning illness, they would kill Ned. So Sansa decided to write the letter, and it reached her brother Robb. Robb was shocked to learn that his father was imprisoned and decided to go to King's Landing, but he would take all the soldiers and knights with him. Robb Stark's hands were trembling from the situation he was in. When Catelyn learned what had happened, she ran to her sister, hoping that her sister would stand by her because Robb was going to wage war on House Lannister, but Lysa refused to stand by her sister, telling her, "The most important thing to me is the family, and I will not participate in the war and put my son's life in danger. The knights of my kingdom will not move from their place to protect me and my son." Catelyn was disappointed by her sister's words. That night, Robb said goodbye to his brother Bran because he was going to take all the soldiers and go to free Ned. He told him, "As soon as I leave here, you will be lord and you will be free. From your little brother, and I'll always keep in touch with you through letters. I don't want you to be afraid, and listen to the teachers." He leaves, and the next day he camps with his men in the forest, studying several attack plans. Robb Stark has gathered 20,000 warriors, which is 10 times the size of the Lannister armies. Catelyn joins her son, and the commanders promise Catelyn that House Lannister will soon be finished, and then they will free Ned Stark. Catelyn hugs her son. Robb is considering pledging allegiance to Joffrey to ensure his father's peaceful release, but Catelyn rejects this idea and encourages him to fight the Lannisters and defeat them because they cannot make peace with them as they are traitors. Just as they killed House Targaryen in their sleep, they will kill them in the same way. Robb is convinced by her words. Later, Tyrion meets his father, Tywin Lannister, the leader of House Lannister. He tells his son that Jaime would have waged war to bring him back because a member of House Lannister couldn't be kidnapped, otherwise the family's honor would have been lost. Tywin asks him about recent news from the kingdom. Tywin tells him that the king is dead, Ned is imprisoned, and Joffrey has become king. Robb Stark has gathered a large army from the north to fight, but he's just a young boy with no experience, and he's not afraid of him. He'll move his army towards his. Meanwhile, Robb Stark and his men are debating whether to attack Jaime's army first or Tywin's. They discover a traitor among them, a Lannister follower. Robb, being kind and honorable like his father, decides not to kill him and tells him to go tell Tywin a false report and that they are coming to finish him off. 20,000 soldiers are coming from the north to wipe out House Lannister, but all the judges disapprove of Robb's actions and consider them foolish. In the north, at the Night's Watch, the commander receives a message from King's Landing. Landing brings news of everything that has happened. Jon Snow is told that his father has been arrested for treason because he wanted to deprive Joffrey of the throne. Jon is shocked and doesn't know what to do. He can't leave because he's obligated to serve the Night's Watch for life and can't leave his service for even a moment. News of Ned Stark's treason spreads among everyone in the Night's Watch, and Sir Alliser Thorne begins to harass Jon, calling him the illegitimate son of a traitorous father. Jon remains silent, and Sir Alliser Thorne attacks him, intending to kill him, but the guards stop him. Sir Alliser Thorne tells him, "I won't let what you did go unpunished." The commander orders Jon to be locked in his room and not allowed to leave, but at night, Jon's direwolf keeps barking at someone outside. Jon opens the door, and the direwolf goes to the commander's room. Jon enters cautiously, and suddenly a wight attacks him. Jon stabs him several times, but the wight is completely unaffected. Even when he cuts off his hand, he needs it, and in the end, he plunges the sword into his body. The leader wakes up from the noise, and although Jon chose the body of the wight with the sword, he gets up as if nothing happened to him. Jon throws fire at him, and this time the fire kills him. Jon, Sam, and the guards gather around his body. Sam tells them that this corpse is from the Whites, and this explains why his eyes were blue. "I read about them in the books, and they only die by fire." Jon asks him, "What is written about the White Walkers?" They were asleep in the snow for thousands of years, and when they all woke up, even the wall itself might not be able to protect this from them. On the other side, the Dothraki were occupying nearby cities and kidnapping villagers like slaves so that Khal Drogo could sell them for money. With this money, he would buy ships and cross the sea to reach the continent of Westeros. But Daenerys didn't like the sight of the slaves imprisoned and kidnapped, their lives being destroyed because of her. Also, the Dothraki soldiers were assaulting the women, so she ordered the soldiers to stop immediately and free all the women. Among the women freed was a sorceress named Mirri Maz Duur. Daenerys decided to take all these women with her, and Khal Drogo argued with Daenerys about what she had done, telling her that these women were spoils of war and that they had the right to do with them as they pleased because that was their custom in war. Daenerys objected to his words and told him that she wanted to protect us for the women. If men come to you wanting them, then let them marry them. But a Dothraki named Mago objects to everything Daenerys says, telling her she has no right to order them around because she's a foreign woman.
Drogo agrees with Daenerys and orders Mago to find a woman to marry, but Mago spits on Drogo and challenges him, saying that a leader who takes orders from a foreign woman isn't a leader. Drogo gets angry and stands to fight him. He stands before him, not caring when he's wounded, and throws his weapons to the ground. He fights Mago with his bare hands unarmed and manages to kill him, slashing his neck. Although Drogo wins, he's injured in many places. Mirri Maz Duur, whom Daenerys saved, volunteers to treat Drogo's wounds. Although Drogo's men refuse, Daenerys insists that Drogo must be treated before the wound becomes infected. Drogo trusts his wife's words and lets Mirri Maz Duur treat the wounds. Then Sansa kneels before Joffrey and begs him to pardon Ned Stark, but Lord Baelish says, "Say that Ned is a traitor, and there is no forgiveness for treason." Joffrey interrupts him and orders Sansa to continue. She says, "My father was wrong when he wanted to deprive you of the throne, but he was surely not in his right mind, and he surely regrets it. But remember, he was a friend of King Robert and didn't want to be the king's hand, but King Robert insisted. And if you still love me, please forgive my father." Joffrey tells her, "I am moved by your words, and I will forgive Ned, but on one condition, that he acknowledges me as the king." Varys goes to meet Ned in the dungeon and demands that he pledge allegiance and obedience to Cersei, or else she will kill him. But Ned refuses because Cersei killed his men, killed Robert, and tried to kill Bran. Varys tells him, "Do it to live and for the kingdom, not for Cersei." And he says that Joffrey is the one who deserves to be king, and I promise you I'll convince Cersei to let you live and go spend the rest of your life serving in the Night's Watch with your brother Benjen Stark and your son Jon Snow. Ned scoffs at his words and tells him he won't compromise his honor for any reason. He only has a few years left in his life, and he won't waste them acting and lying. Varys says, "What a shame, but think about my words again for the sake of your daughters," and leaves him. Afterwards, Robb and his men were standing in front of the bridge over the Green Fork of the Trident, and the bridge gates were closed. The Freys ruled this region, so Catelyn went to meet Walder Frey, the leader of the Freys. He was a man with many sons and daughters, and he wanted to get rid of them and marry them. Catelyn asked him to open the bridge gates so Robb's army could pass, but Walder was a self-serving man who always wanted something in return for everything he did. He told her, Robb, in the eyes of the state, a rebel against King Joffrey, he asks why he couldn't help Tywin Lannister instead. Catelyn tells him she agrees to anything he asks. Walder agrees that each of her children will marry one of his sons, and Catelyn reluctantly agrees. She returns to her son and tells him she has agreed with Walder that Arya will marry his son and he will marry one of his daughters after the war ends. This is his only condition for allying with them. Robb couldn't refuse because he had to cross the Trident River. The next morning, the Northern Army crosses the bridge, and the Night's Watch commander Jeor Mormont gives Jon Snow a Valyrian steel sword as a reward for saving his life from the White. The sword's pommel bears the wolf symbol because Jon is, after all, a Stark. The commander tells him this was your sword and that of your ancestors, and it was supposed to be inherited by your son, Jeor Mormont, but he fled Westeros. He will cling to Daenerys Targaryen, and the commander will tell him, I ordered you to go to King's Landing to tell the king about the White Walkers who suddenly appeared. That way they'll be far away from you, and there won't be any problems between you. Then Bronn wakes Tyrion and tells him the Stark army has arrived and the war is about to begin. Tyrion puts on his armor and rouses the soldiers, giving them an encouraging speech for battle. While they are running to kill Tyrion, he is struck by their weapons and loses consciousness. When he wakes up, he finds that the Lannister army has won, but Tywin tells him, we only fought 1,000 soldiers, and it turns out Robb Stark tricked us and set a trap.
He and the rest of the soldiers are in another place. Robb and the rest of the Stark soldiers go to fight the army with Jaime Lannister and manage to achieve a great victory. They capture Jaime to ransom Cersei and save Ned. All of this was Robb's brilliant plan and that of his advisors. Several days of fighting between Drogo and Mago, Drogo became more and more tired due to his injury, to the point that he fell off his horse. The soldiers said that a leader who falls off his horse is no longer a leader. Daenerys told them that he was just tired and needed to rest, and that they would camp there until his condition improved. However, the soldiers refused to obey Daenerys' orders, so she asked for help from the sorceress Mirri Maz Duur. Jorah told Daenerys that Drogo was close to dying and advised them to escape from there quickly because Drogo was no longer the leader of the Dothraki since he had become weak and they only respected the strong. The Dothraki killed the family of the previous leader, but Daenerys remained determined to stay by Drogo's side. Mirri Maz Duur arrived and continued the treatment she had started on Drogo. The soldiers told Daenerys that she would be worthless if Drogo died, and Daenerys asked Mirri Maz Duur to do something, even if it meant using magic, to save his life. Mirri Maz Duur tells her, I'm going to try a certain spell. At first, they decide to kill Drogo's horse. Daenerys begins her spell and kills it, its blood dripping onto the steps. Daenerys emerges from the tent, and a soldier tries to disrupt the magic ritual, pushing Daenerys when she tries to stop him. Jorah draws his sword and defends Daenerys, fighting the soldier and killing him. Daenerys feels she is about to give birth. Later, Cersei and Joffrey decide to put Ned Stark on trial. The entire city watches, including Arya, who sees everyone calling her father a traitor. Ned Stark decides to do as Varys says, and for the first time relinquishes his honor for the sake of his daughters. He admits to being a traitor and lies saying he wanted to kill Joffrey and seize the throne for himself. He declares Joffrey the rightful heir to the throne.
Joffrey says his mother asked that Ned be punished and forced into the Night's Watch, and that Sansa also asked I feel sorry for him, but I won't listen to women, and there's no forgiveness for betrayal. Joffrey orders Ned's head cut off even though Cersei objects and begs him to reconsider. Sansa screams and cries for her father, but Joffrey is unmoved, convinced of his decision, because Ned is a vile boy with a violent and vengeful nature, a consequence of Cersei's upbringing. Arya can't believe her father is dying. The swordsman, ill in pain, draws his giant sword and beheads Ned Stark, whom we all thought was the hero of the series. Sansa faints from the shock. A friend of Ned's named Yoren takes Arya with him, cuts her hair, and tells her, "From now on, you'll be treated as a boy, so no one suspects you. Your name will be Ari, because if anyone finds out you're Arya Stark, they'll hand you over to the king immediately and collect the price." Arya is forced to obey him as he places her among the prisoners heading north, and the guards are bullying her and trying to take her sword, but Arya raises it against them, and the bullies are afraid of her. Among these prisoners is Gendry, the illegitimate son of King Robert and Arya. Gendry and Arya get to know each other, but Arya doesn't tell him she's Arya Stark. Afterwards, all the prisoners move and leave King's Landing. A raven flies north with a message that Ned Stark is dead. Catelyn learns this and can't stop crying. Robb Stark releases his rage on a tree, hugs his mother, and tells her, "I'll kill them all." She tries to calm him down, saying her sisters are with them and they need to calm down and get them back before they kill them. That night, all the elders gather and agree that Joffrey is not their king. They declare that Robb Stark is their king, and therefore Winterfell will separate from the Seven Kingdoms. They kneel before Robb and declare him their king. They chant his name and salute him, saying, "Long live the king in the north." Meanwhile, the despicable Joffrey is listening to a singer performing a song for him. When the song doesn't please Joffrey, he orders the singer's tongue to be cut out. Joffrey's cruelty doesn't stop there. He takes Sansa to show her her father's head on a spear. She refuses to look and tells him, "Let me go home." Joffrey tells her, "Mother told me I must marry you, so you will stay here and listen to me. I command you to look at your father's head."
She is forced to obey his orders. He tells her, "When I kill your traitorous brother, I will give you his head as a gift." She replies, "Maybe he's the one who will give you your head." Joffrey orders a guard to hit her with pens. Sansa tries to push Joffrey away and kill him, but the Hound stops her. Later, Tywin learns that Jaime is imprisoned by Robb, and the Lannisters are plotting their next move. They're considering offering peace and a truce, but Tyrion tells them they'll definitely not accept it because Joffrey killed Ned, so it's impossible for Robb to sit with them and accept peace. Tywin speaks with Tyrion privately and orders him to go to King's Landing and take the position of Hand of the King, so he can act and make decisions instead of the child named Joffrey. He also warns him to watch out for Varys, Peter, and Baelish because they are all cunning and deceitful. Meanwhile, Jon Snow is furious after his father's death and wants to join Robb Stark and avenge him against Joffrey. Sam tries to calm him down, telling him he can't leave the service because if he does, they'll kill him. Jon ignores him, bumps into Sam, and continues on his way. But Sam and Jon's companions leave the castle and pursue him, determined to bring Jon back to Castle Night's Watch. Jon stops and orders them to return because if anyone finds out they've left the castle, they'll be killed. However, they were loyal friends and would never abandon Jon. They remind him of the oath he swore to the Night's Watch, that his service ends only with death, and ask him to return. Jon Snow is moved that people care about him. This is the first time in his life he's felt this way. He decides to return, and it turns out that the commander-in-chief knows Jon tried to escape, but tells him not to worry, saying, "I won't do anything to you. If I tried to behead everyone who tried to escape, there wouldn't be any night watchmen left. At least you tried to escape to defend your family's honor." The commander-in-chief then speaks to him about a more important problem. An entire globe is disappearing beyond the wall, and some guards have seen bodies with blue eyes, similar to the one Jon killed. Therefore, it seems they are about to enter a war with unknown creatures, and he wants Jon with them in this war. He will have a war just like his brother. The commander-in-chief decides to take a group of guards beyond the wall to find out the truth about the blue-eyed creatures, and Jon Snow joins them. Meanwhile, Daenerys wakes up. Jorah asks about her son, and she tells him, "You couldn't have children, and your son died." Mirri Maz Duur replied, "I delivered you, and the child was born deformed and dead." Daenerys says she wants to see Khal Drogo. When Daenerys goes to him, she finds him motionless and expressionless. Daenerys asks, "Why is Drogo not alive?" Mirri Maz Duur tells her the truth. What happened to Drogo was her plan from the beginning because Drogo burned Mirri Maz Duur's village. Mirri Maz Duur wanted revenge, and Drogo's son would have committed even worse crimes than his father.
Now the world is rid of their evil. Daenerys is shocked and says, "But I saved you." Mirri Maz Duur is unconcerned and says, "That was after I and my family were attacked. So what exactly did you save me from? Look at your husband, and you'll understand that when everything good is gone, life loses its value. What you're feeling is the same feeling I had when Drogo burned. My village and my family were killed." And Daenerys hugged Drogo and bid her farewell. Now they are performing the funeral rites of Khal Drogo, and a large number of Dothraki soldiers have deserted them because their leader is dead. Daenerys tells the rest that whoever wants to leave is free because there is no slavery in her land, and those who remain will be her brothers and sisters and will be her followers. Indeed, some people leave, and Daenerys tells those who stayed, "I am Daenerys, of the Targaryen family, and whoever thinks of harming you will die." Daenerys decides to place the dragon eggs next to Drogo's body and orders Mirri Maz Duur to be burned with them. Daenerys lights the fire and the flames consumed Mirri Maz Duur's body. Daenerys decides to enter the heart of the fire because, if she survives, she will truly be a dragon child. The next morning, a surprise occurs. Jorah finds that Daenerys has survived and was not affected by the fire, and not only that, the eggs have hatched and 3 dragons have emerged. Jorah and all of Daenerys' followers are flattering her and consider her their queen. And here we have reached the end of the first season of the Game of Thrones series. Stay tuned for a summary of the remaining seasons. Don't forget to press like and help us get this episode to 10,000 likes. And whoever reaches the end of the episode, I want you to put the tag emoji in the comments so I know who liked the episode. Bye-bye.